unless you're probably anti-American, anti-English and stuff. Basically what I was saying was before was, you know, so if you're like the general public and you don't really think of the general things in life, of how you pre-plan or see the result of something before you do it, like a game of chess, before you move you don't think. Basically what I was saying is what you've got to think, if I could try and help you realise, is basically like in so if there's like a hostage situation or whatever, and like if the police are there or someone, and what they usually do is they try to resolve stuff with the hostage keeper, and it's just to prevent the hostages' lives being put at risk before the hostage taker goes crazy at them, and before assumptions. I'll keep my hands up. But like I said, basically what they do is they try to resolve it before things get worse, and if they can basically convince the hostage taker to resolve things before they do anything, saves putting the lives of people at risk, like the hostages and stuff, better than if they went in there blazing arms at the hostage taker, and they put the hostages' lives at risk. And what this World War III I was saying about before in the other videos was, all of these countries they have hold of WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons, and basically, so if this war goes off between Russia, China and stuff, all I can tell you is the only people who will be safe if these things go off will be the prime ministers and presidents of those countries, because they have their own bunkers and stuff, like I said, basically. And like I said, you don't know where they're going to fire those WMDs. They could fire those things anywhere. You know, they could, if they wanted to fire one at us, Russia or China, or America at Russia or whatever, you know, they would do that if they wanted to. Like I said, and
In other words, are there sources inside of Baghdad close to Saddam Hussein who are feeding information to our intelligence services or saying things that would lead the president to believe that Saddam and his cohorts are going to be in a specific location? That should be very disconcerting to Saddam to feel that he may have traitors in his own circle of advisors. Number two, it also sends a signal that the Iraqi forces are going to be subject to attack from great distances, that they cannot strike back. That will have a very demoralizing impact. And number three, I think that the waiting now for the rolling thunder or the shock and awe campaign to begin will also have its psychological consequences for those in Baghdad and other urban areas.
How good are these missiles?
These missiles are so precise that they can hit from great distances a target within just a few meters, so-called a circular area of probability. Within a few meters of the target itself, they can strike and devastate that target. So they're very, very precise. They are programmed to hit a specific target and do so almost without fail. Sometimes there are mishaps, sometimes they may go astray, and that is always a concern when you're firing into an urban area. But for the most part, they are extraordinarily precise.
All right, stand by for 1 second. I want to bring in our senior Pentagon correspondent, Jamie McIntyre. Jamie.
The Russian Historical Society has published a report of the Soviet ambassador to Japan on the aftermath of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki from the Archive of Foreign Policy of Russia in time for the 70th anniversary of the attacks. The report was recorded a month after the attacks. The following are the highlights of the report. This is from fortrus.blogspot.com. The train terminal and the city of Hiroshima were destroyed so much that there was no shelter to hide from the rain. The city was a scorched plain, with 15 to 20 cement buildings left standing. Several dozen thousand people huddled in the dugouts on the outskirts of the city. People who came to help the victims during the first 5 to 10 days died. A month after the bombing, grass began to grow and new leaves appeared on the burned trees. Glass windows in the cement building of the police department, which was left standing, blew out inwards. The ceiling was bulging upwards. The zone of impact was 6 to 8 kilometers, where all the buildings were damaged. At 5 to 6 kilometers, mostly roofs were damaged. Some areas were not affected by the rays, suggesting that the energy was expelled unequally by bursts. Some people who were close to the injured did not receive any burns. This pertains to sections significantly removed from the impact. Everything alive was destroyed in the radius of 1 kilometer. The sound and the flash were heard and seen 50 kilometers away. One person reported seeing a flash and feeling a touch of warm stream on his cheek and a needle pinch. Many people only had injuries from shattered glass. Burns were mainly on the face, arms, and legs. A doctor reported seeing 3 bombs dropped on parachutes, 2 of which did not explode and were collected by the military. The doctor experienced diarrhea after drinking the water. Other rescuers got sick after 36 hours. The doctor said that in those affected, the white blood cell count reduced from 8,000 per cubic centimeter to 3,000, 1,000, and even 300, which causes bleeding from the nose, throat, eyes, and from the uterus in females. The injured died after 3 to 4 days. The injured, who are evacuated, heal faster. Those who drank or rinsed with water in the impact area died thereafter. After a month, it was considered safe to stay in the impact zone. However, it was still not conclusive. According to the doctor, rubber clothing offered protection against uranium, as well as any material which is a conductor of electricity. A girl who visited the area a few days after the blast got sick in 1 to 2 weeks and died 3 days after. Nagasaki is divided into 2 sections by a mountain. The section sheltered from the blast by a mountain had much less destruction. Japanese driver in Nagasaki said no rescue work was done on the day of the bombing because the city was engulfed in fire. Nagasaki bomb was dropped over a university hospital in Murakami district near a Mitsubishi plant. All the patients and the staff of the hospital died. The driver said some children who were up on the trees playing survived, but those on the ground died. Most people in Hiroshima said the bomb was dropped on a parachute and detonated 500 to 600 feet above the ground. The head of the sanitary service of the 5th American Fleet, Commander Wilcox, said that no parachutes were used in the dropping of the bombs. He also said no bomb could fall without detonating. He said after the bombing, the zone of impact is safe and the Japanese are exaggerating the effects of a nuclear
Some believe that the weight of history condemned our two great countries to permanent confrontation. Well, you and I must challenge history.
Hiroshima was efficiently preparing for an air raid, all unaware that already descending upon them was the atom bomb.
Nagasaki, which became the second target 3 days later.
The same progress that gives us the technology to strike half a world away also demands the discipline to constrain that power or risk abusing it.
loophole. Basically, how I think if I was going to resolve things is think of the possibilities of two outcomes. This is what I said before. You know, you've always got to look at the situation before you make a move. It could be like a game of chess. You know, if you make a move, you can either, whatever it's called, checkmate or whatever, if you make the wrong move, or you can predict the possibility of two sides. And this is basically what they're doing in those situations. I won't be too far, even though I don't know much about it. But I say, like a hostage situation, they know in that scenario they have two possible outcomes, two possible ways to resolve it, and one of the solutions will be trying to make peace with the hostage taker and stuff, and make sure that, see if they can resolve things, the possible outcome of doing that, or no hostages get hurt or whatever, or if they do it that way and all that stuff. Like I said, it saves people's lives and stuff. And then they have the second option, which would be to go in there and without resolving it with them, and then most likely it would cause risk and stuff to those people. And basically that's how they would think. And therefore you as the public, if you're actually supporting a war because you're anti-Russian, or you're Russian and you're anti-American or whatever, and you're the general public, if you actually care about the risk of WMDs landing on Britain or wherever, if they actually go to this war, you've got to see yourself as supporters in a social democratic country, most of them anyway, and they see the support outcome. I say, there's two scenarios. If you support this war because you're clouded emotions of being anti-whatever, of whatever country, you basically put yourselves at risk more than anyone of this war going off. WMDs flying anywhere, they could hit England, wherever. If Russia wanted to fire them at there, America wanted to fire them at Eastern Europe. And then you've got the other part of the scenario, which is thinking clearly, and it's basically not supporting the war, and the outcome is preventing the war in the first place, and stopping it, and not worrying about the risk of WMDs then firing them anywhere, and they're putting your own lives at risk as the public. And that's just the general scenario situation of what it would be. Like I said, I think a lot of people really want to support a war because they don't like Russia, or they don't like China, and vice versa. Russia, China probably don't like America and Britain. And it's basically the public that are being supported on their emotions, or supporting a war on both sides. America are always like anti-communist, based on the Soviet Union, and most of Eastern Europe, like I said. Russia probably the same in regards to the Cold War and stuff. But that's all I leave to you out for advices. See, like a scenario, like as if you've got a two possibility situation, and basically if you support a war, you put your lives at risk if you're worried, based on these WMDs they have. And then the other scenario is basically not supporting it, or saying we don't want a war, and not putting your lives at risk at all. And that's just how it goes. And if you actually do that in your own lives in general, or with any situation, it saves you getting yourself in trouble if risk is involved anyway. And that's how I would see it. Like if I was a general member of the public, and the PM asked me, or asked us of the British public, I'd just look at it in that situation, and as much as the rest of you do. Basically what I try to bunkers is our PM, or any of them, they'll most likely have their own safety place just in case of that situation. And basically the rest of us here, we don't. And say if, like you said, if America fired one of theirs at Russia from America, Russia could decide to fire them back as much as China. Like I said, there's no difference to us, to them. And they could fire them and name it anywhere where we were living, Kettering or London or whatever. They wanted to if Russia fired at them or vice versa. And like I said, unlike the leaders who have those safety places, the rest of us would just be running around, you know, like panicking with our hands in the air, screaming because we see something flying over us. And like I said, you wouldn't be safe as much as me. And I just want to leave that one there, basically to make you see. It all refers back to, like I said, wise words of wisdom, which is never to let clouded emotions ever get in the way of a situation that regards your own self-importance or your own whatever, because like I said, in a situation like this, you got to see it as, like I said, most likely, I think anyway, those countries that they keep their WMDs on their own land, so America have their WMDs on their homeland. They can fire near enough anywhere in the world they want to. Russia will have them on their land, China, or even Britain possibly. And basically say if whoever made the first move, if Russia said let's fire WMD on Russia to get rid of a big part of their army, so basically they're weaker for us to get rid of. And say if this WMD landed on theirs, Russia could easily turn around and go, oh well, we'll fire one back at America. And like I said, you living in anywhere in the state of America, you don't know if that would land where you were, as much as if Britain fired at Russia and Russia fired back at China, and you could be anywhere in Britain. So all I would put across is seeing as that's a possibility and a risk, and where you're using most of your emotions because you're anti-Russian or anti-American, vice versa, without realising the scenario of a two possibility outcome. Put aside everything else to do with soldiers anyway, having to fight those wars. You've got to think to yourselves, you know, do you want to put yourselves at risk? Or are you sitting there in this country which I stand, or in America, or even Eastern Europe or wherever, thinking to yourselves, well, I don't like America because I'm Russian, or I don't like Russia because I'm American, or whatever, and thinking I'm safe because I'm in this country where it wouldn't, none of those things would hit. And like I said before, just take that into a possibility. As I said, it's just one of those things you need to decide as the public in a social democratic country, and take into the scenario. And that's basically what I was saying about Jeremy Corbyn. I haven't really been seen thoroughly into his story, apart from people were making up or something and supporting things he isn't. But basically what I was trying to put across was, like I said, the son or whatever was saying he's a loony, peaceful man, or loony idiot with his peaceful ideologies. But basically what I put across, as much as I'll be seen as basically a logical thinker, and as much as the police would be in a hostage situation or spec ops, they would use logical thinking on a two possibility scenario of the outcome of one being better than the other. And this regards yourselves and your own safety in regards to supporting a war where you don't know where they'll fire those WMDs. And like you said, it's the only way I can stop or think of the last way to basically help people understand the seriousness of it, and think to themselves. And you know, I can't help anymore, but I try and show you if you're really concerned about yourselves more when it comes to that being a possibility. So I'll leave it there. Cheers. Is the just questioning why the UN and regarding the UN and Putin and stuff, and like Snowden's side, where he's keeping refuge in Russia. And what I was going to ask is why there's a war about to spark off. And the only way to prevent the war is I'd be asking why Putin isn't basically asking or giving whatever this evidence is, which Snowden has, to give towards the UN, basically to prove of these things that, you know, like 9/11 in a false flag operation and stuff, basically in those regards, because say the UN looked in and saw this satellite footage and stuff. It basically says it was an inside job. They could follow on to say 7/7 was, and you know, like this ISIS cell, and the more they'd see behind that, basically that all of these things were false flag operations, based motive-wise, just for to cause what would be a pre-planned World War III. Like I said, if you basically follow the patterns from there, 9/11 saw this satellite imagery footage as proof. You follow on to the rest of it. If I was sitting at the UN, I'd turn around and go, well, that's you know, that's a lot of evidence to say basically that these things were pre-planned and they're on Putin's side, whereas trying to prevent you know, like a war happening, and to defend Russia's economic system. Even if on your side, if you basically put that towards the UN, that evidence and whatever else Snowden took, let alone if it was your political leverage to protect whatever you wanted, you could prevent a war on that side. But even more, the most important part would be what you were claiming Snowden has. He could turn around and say, this is what I've got, and this is the evidence to say 9/11 was an inside job, and whatever else he has. And like I said, it would open investigation into those cases, and they'll follow on to 7/7 and everything else what's suspected behind those. Like I said on the other video, basically what the 9/11 satellite image, which most likely is as imprints or whatever it would be to say it belongs to the CIA or NSA, you know, like as evidence to the UN, there would be no way you can argue that's basically belonging to the US government, who saw and have this recorded footage or whatever it was supposed to be of those planes. And like I said, you could look into that, find out that was a false flag op. Then you could look at everything else to realise that main key, saying it was the first suspected false flag op, that 7/7 Madrid and the rest of them were. And this would help in resolving or going into this yourself, and basically trying to stop this war in general. And this is why I'm asking why Putin hasn't put that forward to the UN, or even more why the UN aren't even requesting something that they know Putin has, which Snowden took from NSA to Russia themselves. I mean, if you were the UN and you're having issues with Russia, or having issues with everyone, and you're not happy about what this war could be, to me, if you basically said to Putin, we want this, all the copies or this documentation, whatever it is what Snowden took, and then you went through that, basically that would go to a court hearing, and to me that would basically be good enough to stop a war in the first place. And like I said, if I was the UN again, this is what I'd be requesting. And sometimes that makes me wonder why you never have, or why that's never been mentioned either, along with everything else I've been talking about. But to me it would be more logical to do, because like I said, I don't know what else Snowden's got. All I know is he's got the GSP proof, global surveillance program, and he's got the 9/11 satellite imagery, what he was said to have. And like I said, when there was thousands of documents taken, and that JTRIG program and 9/11 footage, that can't be thousands of documents. Basically what sound like were on a hard drive from what I read. That sounds like it's got many more documents of other things regarding America's side, to do with things that they're very serious about, trying to get him back into the country and extradited from Russia and tried for. And whatever he has, most likely is very good at preventing a war altogether. And like I said, half of this stuff hasn't been mentioned, and so that's what I'll be putting forward to the UN as well. And they're asking why you're not asking for that. But like I said, it's very serious, And you know, if it was me, that's how I'd handle it. But I'll leave it there anyway. Cheers.